We are live.
Yay!
Right here with Susan with St. Benedict's Homeless Shelter. And you are now watching NonProfit Connect, which is actually our first annual series that we're doing every Giving Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It is a global day of giving where a lot of people look for ways to give. What nonprofits do they want to support? Who do they want to give to? And so we wanted to provide a platform where all of these nonprofits can come in, share what they do, share the impact they're making in their community, and let us know how you can help if their story pulls at your heartstrings. So there's a lot of nonprofits you can give to, and Susan is here to educate us on St. Benedict's. And of course, we have a handful of different homeless shelters here in our area. So I'm really looking forward to, I don't know a ton about St. Benedict's. I'm not from Owensboro. I've been here about 10 years. So I would love to know, first of all, how long have you been there? How did you get connected? And what do you do?
Well, before I get started, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of St. Benedict's. St. Benedict's is extremely pulls at my heartstrings, and it's a passion of mine. So I always get real excited about getting to go out and explain to the public what all happens inside those doors at St. Benedict's.
Awesome.
So I have only been with St. Benedict's for about 1.5 years now. I've been with multiple nonprofits, several of which you've already had on today. And our community is just full of wonderful, wonderful resources. And that's kind of what makes this job so good for me, is that I'm aware of a lot of those resources. So when I go to St. Ben's and we have folks come in, I'm aware of what resources they need and where I can send them. So St. Benedict's, what was your question? I'm sorry, I just took over the interview.
No, yeah. How long you been with them and what you do?
Okay.
No, you're good. You can take it over.
I have a tendency to do those things. I'm short. It's a short person syndrome. St. Benedict's is a nonprofit shelter and social support services organization. We have multiple facilities. Everyone thinks that we just have one. Everybody thinks it's our men's shelter, which is our biggest and best shelter. Only because of size. 64 men stay there. So we have 64 individuals that live at the men's shelter. And at the minute our clients come through that front door, we start with a continuum of care with them. We have case managers on site, so we start finding out what each individual client's needs are. If they need housing, if they need substance abuse help, we can direct them towards those facilities that can provide that. We help them get their driver's license. A lot of times, if an individual's been homeless, they'll lose the majority of all of their belongings. So they can't find a job without that license. They can't find a job without their social security card. So we start, and many of them have like some really chronic medical health issues, and they don't have their medical card any longer. So they can't even go to the doctor and get help. So we start immediately with working with those individuals. But past that, we also have the St. Gerard's Maternal Home, which is a home for pregnant women that are displaced and homeless at the time. We have our Women's and Family Day Shelter, where women can come in with their children. It's amazing in our community, and a lot of folks don't realize we have increased in numbers of females that are homeless and they're living in their cars with their children. So they can go over there during the day. It's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. It's a warm, very comforting facility. They come in, they can watch TV, they can just get off their feet, relax a while. We also have a tech center so they can apply for all of those resources that they need while they're there. We have a targeted case manager in-house there that will start working with them as well. And then we have a bus stop right outside. So we hand bus passes to them when they leave. They get on the bus and they'll go to the overnight women's shelter. So we have a lot of folks. We have transitional homes as well on top of all of that. So we do just a plethora of services.
Yeah, it sounds like, so you said the men's home is 64 beds.
Yes.
I'm assuming it stays full.
With a waiting list all the time. And we allow folks to come in and eat, even if they can't find a bed. And they'll put their name on the waiting list, but they can come over and still have meals. So we have lots and lots of community partners that come in and donate food and serve the meals. So every night we have some group that will come in and serve meals to the men, and they have a nice, I think that's, one of the pluses of that men's shelter is those meals are hot. I mean, they'll have a whole plate lunch, supper. So
Yeah.
it's a great place for those individuals to seek shelter.
How long is that? I don't mean how many people. How long is the wait list? If somebody's on the wait list and they're next on the list, how long are they typically waiting?
That's the thing about homelessness is you put your name and you might have 10 people in front of you, but when a bed comes open, those 10 people may have already found other shelter. So you might not wait. You might have to wait a little while, for a few days, but a lot of times it can be fairly quick.
Okay. So you might be deep on a wait list, but that doesn't mean you're going to be waiting for
It's not like, I think everybody thinks wait list, especially like housing wait list. If you've ever dealt with like a Section 8 housing, those can be like 6 months to a year long. It's not that. It's a short period. Just keep coming back, and we tell all of the folks, just come back in every day and check.
Yeah.
So, because that's the other thing, a lot of times phones will get lost when they're sleeping outside and just being transient, moving a lot. Then they do lose a lot of their belongings. So we just have them come back in, and surprisingly, a bed might show up within a day or so.
Yeah. You briefly mentioned transitional housing, and I think that's something that probably a lot of people don't understand. So can you go into that a little bit more?
Sure. And that's what I meant when I said at the beginning about continuum of care is we start working with, when these folks come in, they're not necessarily ready to go into an apartment. Say you came in and you're homeless and I put you in an apartment tomorrow, but you're dealing with mental health issues. You've got no job. You're not employed. You don't have any of your personal belongings, such as your IDs, to get any of that. So it's not going to be, we're setting you up for failure. Start at the very bottom with working with them. We'll get all of those basic needs. And when we feel like they're ready to be out on their own, we have transitional housing that we will place them in. And there can be several that stay there. And they're still part of St. Ben's, but it's an actual home that they're in together. And that's when they've reached a little bit higher level and we feel like they can do well on their own. And then we'll start working with them on their housing vouchers, whether there's multiple different types of vouchers at any given time. Sometimes they go away and we'll get a different type of voucher.
Sure.
But we stay abreast of which property managers will like rent to someone that's got a housing voucher. Not all of them will. And then once they get in transitional housing, the next step after that would be they will go into their own apartment with a housing voucher.
Okay. And then how long does that go for? So if somebody is in their own apartment with a voucher, do they get support for a long time?
It depends on the voucher. Absolutely. It depends on the voucher. And if it's a Section 8 voucher and they qualify for it, and if they're on disability, say, that's permanent. They can stay there permanently.
Okay.
So all they have to do is, they'll come in and do their research with them, and then they can stay as long as they want.
To stay at your shelter, and I'm asking all kinds of questions because I just don't know. So I'm assuming that anybody who's listening probably also doesn't know.
Absolutely.
So to stay at your shelter, so let's just say I know of somebody that I want to help. I pass them often and I really want to help them at least understand that there's a homeless shelter for them they can go to. What criteria do they have to meet, or do they?
No, and that's the thing. We are currently in the process of becoming a low barrier shelter. There's high barrier shelters and then there's low barrier shelters. We're trying to become a low barrier shelter because statistics have proven here in Owensboro, our homelessness population is increasing. I think most of us that live around here can attest to that. You see more people out. And therefore, we're trying to figure out what we can do to bring those numbers down. And part of it is there's a recent House bill that's also passed that criminalizes these individuals staying in their cars on property that, say, a Walmart parking lot. They can't do that anymore, and they can literally be arrested for doing that. That didn't used to be the case. So now we're trying to figure out ways to get them where they can. I lost track of what you were asking me again. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're going on the right track.
What was your question though?
So I asked you, gosh, I don't even remember.
That's on me. I'm sorry, guys. I tend to ramble. But no, that's the whole thing is we try very hard to get them to the point where they can come to our shelter. They can stay there as long as they need until they feel like they can get back on their feet.
Oh yeah. I was asking about the requirements. Like, yeah.
And that's part of the low barrier. The high barrier, we were high barrier, which meant if they appeared to be under the influence, if they had a criminal warrant or some sort of warrant, outstanding warrant, we would not take those individuals in, and now we will. We'll take anyone in, and we start working with them from the get-go to overcome that. We're not going to call and turn them in at this point. So that's the big thing. And there are shelters out there that do all of that, and they work on a different level. They're not going to let you come in with all of that. But it's kind of been proven. Houston's a prime example. During COVID, there was all this extra money that COVID, the federal government was giving out for COVID, and they gave them a big pot of money, and instead of using it to just house them, they used that to build low barrier shelters and to bring these individuals. It's a housing first model where you bring the individuals in, you get them shelter, because that's the primary basic need.
Mhm.
All of these things we're talking about, you can't really overcome any of that if every single night you're on the street or you don't know where you're going to be on the street.
Well, and especially when it's really cold. It is so cold out there right now.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We have white flag here in Owensboro, which means they can go at any time if the temperature drops below 32 degrees, they can go to the white flag shelter, which is the Pino shelter, and they can stay inside during that, so they don't have to be on the street.
Is there anything about your shelter that you wished people would know? Like, is there a big misconception?
I think there's a big misconception in general with homelessness, and I'll say that as someone that works in a shelter. My office is in a shelter, so I interact with these individuals all the time, and they're just like you and I. There's a misconception that you can't make eye contact. It's bizarre. I've been with people in the car, and you go up to that street corner, and there's someone on this corner, and they're don't look, and it's like, they're individuals. These folks are just having a hard time right now. They're just like you and I. Now, are there some that have mental health issues or other barriers that maybe you need to steer clear? Absolutely. But overall, as I was telling you before we came on air, I feel like there's not any one of us that is above something happening in our lives that would land us right in the same predicament.
Mm-hmm.
And overcoming that is, once that starts spiraling, you will get really down before you get back up. So I just feel like people need to learn to just kind of extend a helping hand, and it doesn't have to be monetary. It can just be a smile. When you see that individual, just smile at them.
And not just that, but I feel like just having conversation.
Absolutely.
Treating them like a human, because they are.
One of my job tasks is doing our testimonies. I'll put them out on our social media accounts, and it's always amazing to me when I'll bring the individuals in, because I don't know everybody that comes through the shelter. But when I'll bring them in and we start with what happened, how did you wind up in the situation, where did it start? And it's always just things that could happen to anybody. I was married, and my husband passed away, or I got a divorce, and then I got evicted because I couldn't pay my rent any longer, or my house payment anymore. It's things that I personally have gone through a divorce, and your finances change.
Yeah, well, and with the prices of everything right now.
Right. So it can happen to anyone. So I just feel like the misconception, and part of my job is to make sure that people become more aware. I'm the director of advancement with St. Benedict. I think that was one of your earlier questions that I totally avoided.
That's okay.
But part of that is going out in the community and doing things like this and trying to make the community more aware of what St. Benedict's is all about. And that's why I'm always trying to get people to just come to our shelter.
Just learn more.
Just come down. You don't have to volunteer. You don't have to serve a meal. Just come down and look around, because it's so heart-wrenching to just see it's heartwarming. I said wrenching, I meant heartwarming, to see all the great things that are being done in the shelter. And these folks, they are so appreciative, and they're good-hearted folks for the most part. They're good people just trying to get back on their feet.
So let's say that you just pulled at some heartstrings and people are wanting to help, people who are watching this. What is your greatest need? Is it financial? Is it volunteer?
We need all of that, obviously, and I'm sure every nonprofit you've had on today has said that. Monetarily, of course. St. Benedict's that's the other misconception, is that St. Benedict's we're under the diocese here in Owensboro. However, we operate 90%. They don't fund our operational cost at all. So we operate 90% on local donations, local grants, just filling out the grant paperwork, and just campaigns and fundraising events and campaigns. So we're currently under our bed sponsorship campaign. So that's that 64-bed facility. It's $500 for a whole year to sponsor a bed, and that means an individual can stay there for a whole year.
And I don't understand how you guys can do that for $500.
I know, and I know it's amazing. That's why I say come in down there and just take a look around at what's going on. But some folks can't even afford $500. I always say that we're under the bed sponsorship. You don't have to give $500 at once. You can break it up throughout the months.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's $42 a month, by the way. Or you can give $10 one time and never give another dime. That's fine as well.
That's right.
But it's not that I don't want people feeling like they have to make a $500 donation, because some folks are just not in that situation, and that's perfectly fine.
And some people have more time than money.
Right. And that's wonderful as well. We would love for those folks to come down and look around. There's so much need at the shelters, at all the shelters. We need folks just to sit at the front desk sometimes.
Well, let's get into that. So what kinds of things, if somebody had the time and they wanted to volunteer some time, so they may greet people at the front desk?
Absolutely. That men's shelter, as I said, is a 24/7 shelter. So it's open all night, all day, every day. So someone has to be at that front desk as the men come and go, because a lot of times they'll come in and they'll need, toothpaste, or there's showers there. There's laundry facilities there for them to wash their clothes. They need detergents. So someone has to be at that front desk. Okay. So just someone to sit at that front desk. We need people sometimes just to run things for us. So in a vehicle, just take things back and forth to the other shelters. Our women's shelter, same thing. There's someone that just has to sign. Everyone that comes in has to be signed in. So we will have someone at that front desk. We have just cleaning, just bringing in donations, whether it's food, clothing. We're always taking clothing for donations. We need servers at the men's shelter, because we do have that hot meal every night. So if anybody's out there that really thinks they're a great cook and wants to make a meal.
Well, I was getting ready to say, is it cooking too, not just serving, but cooking?
You can cook it. You can bring it in. If you want to bring pizza in one night, that's wonderful. If you want to come in, and we have a lot of like church groups that'll come in. They'll bring the folks in, and we have a full kitchen there. You can come in and cook all the food you want. It's a really nice facility. So yeah. So we'd love to have anyone.
So if somebody wanted to volunteer, do they just show up? Do they need a call?
Well, I'd prefer it if they call, but they can certainly just show up as well. Okay. The only reason I say that is because there are certain days we need volunteers more than other days.
Sure.
So if I know in advance, I can certainly put them on the day. The thing I have always had an issue, if someone just walks in and we really don't have any staff there that can take the time, if something's really going on and we don't have I don't want a volunteer just sitting there thinking, well, why'd I come in here?
Right, thinking you don't need the help.
But then the very next day, we are so overwhelmed and we need so much help. So, yeah.
That makes sense. So how should people find you? How should they reach out to you? Is it a phone number? Is it a website?
You can call us at 270-541-1003, or you can go to our website, which is St. Benedict's, Owensboro.org. Saint is just St. Benedict's, Owensboro.org.
S at the end of Benedict.
Right. Benedict's, plural.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I think it's really awesome. So we've been Facebook friends for a while.
I know, and I come into these things with just so much information I want to get out there that sometimes I just like ramble.
No, listen, we can talk for another 20 minutes. I could be here for it.
No,
we have another one right behind us.
I appreciate your time so much, Sam. I appreciate what you're doing. This is a wonderful idea.
Well, and I just hope, and for all of you listening, this event that we're doing today is literally all day long, and we're not doing it for any other reason other than hopefully somebody out there, even if it's just one person, is watching this and wants to help St. Benedict's. Absolutely. That's what we want. It doesn't matter how you help. And also, we could do a little peer pressure here. If you end up deciding that you want to help St. Benedict's, if you comment below and you say, I'm going to go volunteer or I'm going to go donate, somebody else may see that and they might go, well, if they can do it, then I can do it. So if you plan on volunteering or if you plan on financially giving, it would be super awesome for you to make a comment below. Let us know that you're going to become involved, and it'll probably ignite a fire under someone else to do the same.
I appreciate it so much. It's a huge passion for me. So if any of you guys feel that passion, please reach out, get in touch. We'd be grateful.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you.